Y'all about ready?
Yes, sir.
Give me a couple more seconds. Gotta have something to bang on here. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Morning, everyone. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, August the 4th, 2020. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, July 31st, 2020 at 8:45 a.m. A supplemental agenda was posted on Friday, July 31st, 2020 at 2:30 p.m. And a second supplemental agenda was posted on Friday, July 31st, 2020 at 4:05 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Let's pause briefly for a moment of silence, and then we'll have a pledge to the flags. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Today under public comments, we do have a person calling in by the name of Eric Schaefer. Eric lives at 228 Oklahoma Avenue, Hewitt, Texas. So good morning, Mr. Schaefer.
Good morning.
All right, we're in session and we have the court members here. We have a quorum. On public comments, if you would go ahead and state your name and address again, and then please limit your comments to around 3 minutes. So you may go ahead.
My name is Eric Schaefer. My address is 228 Oklahoma Avenue, Hewitt, Texas. My statements are about the budget and the revenues and the tax rate.
Okay,
Back in 2017, what's that?
go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Back in 2017, y'all told the voters of McLennan County that that tourists were going to pay for our $30-something million Escrow Event Center construction expenses. And just a quick look through the budget, it looks like what we've actually done is finance those costs, and then the vehicle and hotel taxes are going to pay the McLennan County voter back. And I'm seeing that so far this year we've raised $1.5 million from those taxes, but we spent $14.3 million on the construction, and $4.2 million of the tax money from property taxes is going to be going towards paying down the $38.7 million in general obligation debt that we have. Not all of that is Escrow Event Center. However, I'm curious to know what the vehicle and hotel tax revenue is compared to what was projected. I suspect that the shutdown across the state of Texas and in McLennan County has impacted our revenue to pay back this bond. So the McLennan County taxpayer is having to pay money out of their property taxes to repay the debt y'all incurred for us. That's a lot of money that could be taken out of our property tax bill if we weren't paying for things that if we don't have the money for it. Just because we're able to take a loan doesn't mean that's a good idea. And I doubt anyone foresaw the COVID situation and the impact it would have on our tax revenue. But I said back in 2017 that lots of things can happen, and y'all move forward with the vote anyway and obligated the McLennan County taxpayer to all this debt. So these taxes are taking food out of the mouths of McLennan County residents. And it concerns me that we're in this situation, and I'd really like to understand what the impact has been and what the plan is to get us out of this this low tax revenue situation.
Okay. All right. We don't respond directly to questions that you brought up in the court, but I'll be glad to have someone or myself call you later on to explain, because I think you've got a misunderstanding of how the structure of this works. So I can assure you no ad valorem tax money is going towards this project. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, going to I'd like, is Elizabeth on the phone?
Yes, Judge Felton, good morning.
Good morning. If you would, got to go to her report, which is M1. And so we can go ahead and let you get back to work. So if you'll kind of give us an update on the COVID-19 situation.
Perfect. So as of yesterday, we had 135 new cases. Out of those 135, they did find out 115 were from our mobile testing sites we conducted last week. So that was it's good news for us. We can know where our cases are in our county, and we are getting more results in as we speak. The total number of cases today is 4,571. There are 1,789 estimated active cases and 2,731 recovered cases. There are 64 cases that are hospitalized. Out of those 64, 50 are McLennan County residents, and 15 of those cases are on ventilators. And then yesterday we did have our another drive-through testing site at McGregor High School. The final number for that testing, we were able to conduct 464 tests at McGregor High School yesterday.
How many?
464. We ended up going up from what I thought. I thought we had finished, but it looked like they stayed a little bit longer to get some extra walk-ups that had showed up. So
okay.
Both of our drive-throughs, both from Tolliver and McGregor, did very well. So we are going to look to do more drive-throughs in the future. So the next testing site will be a walk-up at MCC August 13th through the 15th.
So where are we with the positivity rate? It's been trending down, I think. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think we're starting to move a little more downward. So, and this is a good opportunity because not only are we testing symptomatic people, but anyone who's asymptomatic can also get tested at these COVID testing sites in the community.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions for Elizabeth?
Yeah, Elizabeth, are these the cheek swab tests?
Yes, sir.
Or
yes.
And are those as accurate as the nasal?
That is what the state is using, and that's what they have contracted through with this private company. So I can't speak for how accurate those tests are, but I would think they should be, from what we've seen, it looks like they're pretty accurate. So I don't want to speak to accuracy because it's not really my area. But that's just what the state has turned to, because I think the nasal pharyngeal was a little invasive for people.
I think
What's the
what I
turnaround time?
understand, Commissioner Jones, from talking to some of the doctors, that the cheek swab test is the negatives are not as accurate as the other test, the nasal, but they're the positives are fairly accurate, and so it's the negatives that are maybe have a problem. But the fact that the cheek,
They're not negative, or they're not negative, or they or
if they show to be
try to
negative,
not have a double negative here. So.
if they show to be negative in the cheek swab test, I believe that they're not quite as accurate on the negative side, but on the positive side, they're fairly accurate. But the cheek swab, because people know that it's not as invasive and there's not a lot of pain goes with that, then there's more people participate. So there's a good reason to try to employ that as part of our testing regimen. So then I think they'll tell you if you're negative, that means that you're negative that day, and or that there is that there is not, it's not quite as accurate on the negative, and if you have symptoms, to be sure to get tested again.
Yes.
So it's about how you communicate with them and do self-analysis on how you feel and your temperature and those kind of things as well.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
Of course.
All right, going to the consent agenda. Recommended pulls are E3A, the incentive pay request, E3B, Constable Precinct 1 on HR matter, and then under E3E, 54th District Court HR matter. Are there any other recommended pulls from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of those pulls?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell. Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Judge Felton.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Okay, going back to those pulled items under E3A. Amanda, are you available?
Yes, sir. I'm on the line.
Okay. Under E3A is consideration or action on incentive pay for 3 different departments, the 19th District Court, the Justice Peace Precinct 2, and the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, sir. Regarding the 19th District Court, we had requested that the 19th District Court utilize a 4% allowance and distribute the 4% allowance to their employees based on their rating eligibility. Their ratings did provide the eligibility for the numbers they put down. However, they were over by $516.23. So we asked them to make a correction to their distribution to stay within the 4% allowance, which meant that they had to adjust the values there for the employees that were eligible to stay within that budget range. And we provided to the court their updated report with the corrected numbers to be within that 4% eligible budget allowance. And so we just need this correction approved by the court so that we can proceed in processing. The one related to the Justice of the Peace Precinct 2, this particular office was not aware that they had the ability to put in a request for a small office adjustment to the 2% allowance, that they could request some additional funds to provide more monies related to what their employees were eligible for based on their ratings. So after Judge Lee became aware that that was a possibility, he requested for his office to be considered in the 4% incentive pay allowance, given he is a small office, and he has submitted his request based on how he would like that distributed for his office staff if the court would allow his late submission to have a small office increase to the 4%, being consistent with those other offices that asked for a small office increase to their allowance. The third one there is related to employee in the sheriff's office. For whatever reason, that particular evaluation, the administration requested a review of that evaluation, and then it kind of got lost in the shuffle as entries were being submitted to the Human Resource Office. It was completed. It was completed on time. As I mentioned, it just didn't get incorporated with the bulk of reviews that were submitted to the office, and that's why it was not incorporated in the incentive pay distribution list. So the reviews submitted, they are requesting that their employee be eligible to receive the amount that they are eligible for. That amount is consistent with distributions they provided the rest of their workforce based on that rating eligibility. They did have funds remaining and funds available, so this is not an increase to the budget allowance they were originally given. This is within the allowance and the monies they had, but they would like that late submission approved.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners on these three areas? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve E3A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under E3B, under Constable Precinct 1, Amanda?
So back, I believe in June, Constable Precinct 1 made a request to increase his hourly pay for his hourly law enforcement officers. He is presently an elected official that is utilizing these part-time funds, and he would like to pay his part-time law enforcement officers $20 per hour. The court originally requested this be reviewed during budget discussions and taken into consideration during budget discussions. It was not brought up during those discussions, and he would like this to be effective immediately if at all possible. If it could not be effective immediately, he's requesting this be taken into consideration effective as of October 1st. Again, related to part-time funds, they can employ as many individuals within that line item budget as are necessary for their operations. But what is impactful is if they're paying a higher dollar per hour rate for those employees, then whatever is budgeted for that part-time fund, they'll utilize those funds faster because they're paying at a higher rate. But he is still restricted to the funds that the court approves for that part-time budget line item.
Okay, are there any questions for Amanda?
Well, I do have a question, and I don't know if Amanda can answer it, but maybe April can. If we approve from this point forward, are there enough funds in their budget this year? Is he going to have a budget amendment coming back and saying he didn't have enough part-time money?
Let me pull up that account real quick.
I should have plenty. I mean, I have a pretty good monitor on how often I work and how much they get paid and how much I can work them.
Would you come up here so the rest of
Yeah,
I think everybody else can hear
it
you?
needs to be on the
That's
recording.
okay.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. Yes, I keep a pretty good monitor on how often they work and how much is deducted every time they work. So I'll make sure that we stay under our budget. And if I can't work them, I can't work them. So I just make sure I maintain it.
Okay.
And in the budget, the remaining amount, like you said, I know you keep good tabs on it, but there's enough for, if you increase the rate to $20 an hour, about 70 hours left to
Okay.
work a part-time person before September 30th.
Okay.
And they did have an increase in their total part-time budget for next year, but they were able to make that and then still keep their budget the same as the
Yeah.
prior
Now we
year.
just moved it from other areas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve E3B.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Hilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
This
Passed.
is Amanda. I apologize for interrupting, but I do need the direction from the court related to when this can be effective.
Well, the motion was made off the request in the agenda, so it would be October, it would be immediately for this year's budget, and then going forward, starting October 1st.
Adjust, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, pass on that, and thank you, April.
Thank you.
And then under E3C and the 54th District Court,
So this particular request is related to the district court's need to sustain their operations. They have an employee that recently retired from their years of service with the county. The court is requesting the ability to immediately fill that position. It is their court administrator role that they are wanting to fill internally, and then they need to immediately backfill the court administrative assistant position. So they're asking for the court to provide an allowance for them to move forward in filling that position before the accrued time on the books is exhausted.
And based on their current budget right now, they'll have money in other line items that they can use to cover that additional cost.
okay, any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second, any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Hilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones, Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass.
I vote aye. So, sorry,
Okay.
I was muted.
Thank you. Okay, next I failed to see that there's a proclamation. Actually, it's a request for a ratification of a proclamation recognizing and honoring Ms. Rosetta Daisy Cherry Manning Minor Stone on her 100th birthday. Did I do that correct, Commissioner Miller?
You did. She has a lot of names on there, and that's only because she's so well known throughout the community. So her maiden name and two married names are on there. But she was honored last Sunday. She celebrated her 100th birthday. She's an amazing lady. She's a native of Waco, McLennan County, and when she turned 18. She attended Paul Quinn for a few semesters, but then she applied to our workforce department, I guess they had back then, and she went to work for the Department of Defense in one of the plants during World War II. So she has a lot of experiences, and she was a joy to be with. And I would just like for the court to approve the ratification of this proclamation for Miss Manning Maynor Stone.
Okay.
And that's
All
what
right. Is, so,
Second.
the motion made and second, any other discussion? And we want to wish her a happy birthday and appreciate her service to the country. All right, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Okay, is Kathy Van Wolf on?
I am.
Okay, Kathy, I want to go to M11. Okay. All right, M11 is regarding the November 3rd, 2020 joint general election approval. An order of joint general election, election day voting centers, and agreement to conduct a joint election.
Yes, sir. We provided the order of election for the general election. The state will call for the state level, and the county needs to call for the county level offices. List of the vote centers is included, and then we will be conducting a joint election with 27 other cities and schools that are currently having an election November 3rd.
Okay.
So I'd like to have those approved. We will have extended early voting 2 weekends, and we'll start early voting a week ahead of what we normally have. So we'll have 3 weeks of early voting for this, and 5 early voting sites and 34 election day sites.
Okay, and
Judge?
yes.
I've been asked to see if we could have this deferred. I know the city of Waco has it on their agenda for today for discussion. And I know we have until city schools and other political subdivisions have until August the 17th to approve their order of election. And so I wanted to see if when we come back on the 18th and we approve the judges, if at that time we could make our final vote on the early voting locations and centers and the dates and times, and give the city a chance to discuss and do whatever they're going to do today in their meeting.
And we can't do that, Commissioner, because we have to call it before the 18th. The deadline is the 17th, and we don't have a meeting. So unless you want to call a special meeting, we have to call a special meeting to have that approved.
We have a meeting on the 18th. That's the third Tuesday. That's our next regular meeting.
That's a
Right.
date.
But the 17th is the deadline to call the election. So you have to call it before the 18th.
Well, I don't want to, I would hope that we would allow the city of Waco the opportunity to look at it. And if they're going to make any changes, allow them to do that. I know we've gone through some challenges, even getting them on board to allow us to contract with us for their election. And I would just like to offer them that courtesy. If we have to move our court date to the 17th, I know we have some dates on the budget calendar. We've got August the 11th, we have August the 14th. I just want to allow us the opportunity to let them vote on it, and then we come back and vote on it. I want to at least give them.
As long as, and you certainly, Commissioner, can go ahead and have it approved. And then if there's an amendment, we can come back and do an amendment later.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if we can defer it and then allow the city to approve it or do whatever they want to do. And then we come back because we have several meetings before the 17th. We have the 11th and the 14th. And it's just a courtesy. I don't see what the issue would be. If we defer it and we allow them to discuss and vote on it this afternoon, we can come back and do it next Tuesday.
Okay, that'd be fine, as long as we can do it before the 18th.
So Commissioner Miller, are you making a motion to defer?
Yes, and I would hope that the court would allow us to defer it just to give the city of Waco that courtesy. And so I would like to make a motion to defer M11.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Kathy, has the city been provided with this information?
Yes, they have, all the 27 cities and schools, and several of the cities and schools have already called their election and ordered their election and all the other cities and schools will have to do that before the 18th, before the 17th as well. And they've all been provided this information.
And Commissioner
And
Jones,
have
it's on their agenda for today. It's on their agenda for their meeting today.
Okay, well, the meeting that was on the calendar for the 11th was for any grievance, and
Yeah.
we're not gonna have any, so we would have to meet. So,
Yeah, I don't have any other dates that we have to meet for budget until the 25th. So
okay,
I guess I was just stating Tuesdays. We have the 11th is the next Tuesday.
all right, any other questions? All right, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Okay, pass. Kathy, anything
Yeah.
else?
I do have something else, and I want to go ahead and share it with you today since we were going to call this election. This will be my last election. I've been here 24 years, and I will be retiring as of November the 30th, 2020.
Hanging it up, huh?
Yes, sir. I appreciate the encouragement and the help that I've been given and the opportunities that I've been given here in McLennan County. But I came in 1996 before the presidential election, so I'm going to end it here with another presidential election in November.
Okay,
Congratulations.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. I guess sometimes I feel like a dinosaur. I remember when the court hired Kathy. You came, I remember you came in after a tumultuous campaign cycle, and I think, in my opinion, you've done an excellent job in a very difficult capacity, and I wish you the best. Sorry to see you leave, but I'm glad you're sticking through the November election.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll all get through this together.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
All right, so we will be posting a meeting for next Tuesday, so put that on your calendar. All right, going to under items, under E4, authorization, ratification, RFPs and RFQs. Under E4A is authorization of public or ads relative to the FY21 budget and the 220 tax rate.
So I think those items were included in the consent
Oh,
agenda.
I'm sorry. I'm still, yeah, they are already approved. Thank you. Just a reminder, we've already approved it, or just the notice of it, but we imposed a burn ban last week, and so that's still in place. Going to items F under budget amendments under F1 regarding the FY20 budget. Under Francis.
Yes, sir. So starting with F1A, these are budget amendments, like you said, for fiscal year 20. F1A is in the general fund for Road and Bridge Precinct 4. This is to increase capital outlay and professional services, and they are able to move within their department. F1B, this is in the general fund for the criminal district attorney. They're requesting to increase their part-time pay line item by moving from the full-time employees line item, and they have some excess there due to vacancies. F1C, this is general fund for maintenance of buildings. They're requesting to move within their department to increase furniture and equipment, and then also supplies for items they need before the end of the year. F1D, this is a certification of revenue related to auction proceeds. The proceeds were specific to Road and Bridge Precinct 2 equipment, and the total was $95,533. There's also a related budget amendment attached to that certification, and the request is to increase the capital outlay line item within the Road and Bridge 2 department. F1E, this is general fund for capital outlay. This is increasing the capital outlay line item by $22,825. And this is for the Commissioner's Court upgrade that you approved on the last agenda. The IT department had excess money in line items within their department that we were able to move to cover the cost. F1F, this is in the law library fund for County Court at Law number 2, and it's just an increase in that fund for legal reference materials. F1G1, this is for the Highway 6 jail, and they're requesting to move within that department to increase supplies and other services and charges. They're needing some increase. They're needed an increase in supplies due just to the price increases for gloves, masks, and other supplies. And then they're also asking to increase other services and charges due to some psych and physical evaluations required for hiring. F1G2, this is general fund for the Jack Harwell Detention Center, and they are requesting to move within that department, increasing supplies, again for price increases on gloves, masks, and other necessary supplies. And then F1G3, this is general fund for jail medical, for the Highway 6 jail medical. They're needing additional funding in the medical services line item, mostly related to COVID, and they are also able to move within that department into the medical services line. Okay. F1.
Francis, I hate to interrupt.
Sure.
On these from these F1G, are these all unexpected items that we can add to our list?
Definitely. So there was a grant that did cover some cost for the sheriff's office and the jail, but these we'll have these tagged, and then we can incorporate those into the other grants that are available.
Thank you.
You're welcome. F1H1, this is general fund for JP Precinct 2, and he is requesting to move within his department into furniture and equipment for the purchase of some shelves and some additional storage. F1H2, this is in the Justice Technology Fund for JP2, and he is requesting to purchase 2 monitors that'll help his clerks in using Zoom. F1I, this is general fund, Road and Bridge Precinct 1, and the request is to move within that department into other services and charges for costs needed for the remainder of the year. F1J, this is general fund, the Commissioner's Court Department, and this is an amount that's requested coming from contingencies, but it is for the cost associated with the sign language services that have been being provided. F1K1, this is general fund for JP Precinct 4. They're requesting also to move from contingencies and increase their language translation line item. He has additional cost, unexpected cost for this year, and it's related to his magistration at the jail. F1K2, this is also JP4. This is in the Justice Technology Fund. He is requesting to go ahead and purchase 2 scanners out of this fund. These were items that were already on the 2021 IT assessment list. So if you approve this, then we'll go back and adjust the 2021 budget for this fund. F1L, this is general fund, engineering department. They are requesting to move within their department into furniture and equipment for the purchase of a copier, printer, scanner, as well as the refrigerator for their break room. For the copier printer, there's also an additional item on the agenda later on today. F1M, this is Justice Technology Fund for JP Precinct 3, and they are requesting to move money into furniture and equipment for the purchase of a conference phone. And this request was actually on the the agenda on July 21st.
And wasn't this, was that part of their 2021 budget? I thought I remembered that.
As far as I know, no, this was just something they had a need for right now.
Okay.
F1N, I think there was some information that went out late yesterday. This budget amendment is in the general fund for human resources, and they would like to increase their furniture and equipment line. And this would allow them to purchase 5 workstations, as well as some other office furniture and equipment. But these are also items that were on the IT assessment list for 2021. They're able to purchase those now.
So they'll back those expenses out of the 21 budget?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Any of those you approve for that purpose today, we'll go in and make adjustments.
Okay.
F1O, this is Justice Technology Fund for JP Precinct 5. They are also requesting to go ahead and purchase items that were on the IT assessment list. It includes monitors, ClickShare, scanners, etc. F1P, this is the Law Library Fund. And this is capital outlay specifically in the Law Library Fund. There's been a request to purchase a new copier for the law library. There's an attached quote there. So they could go ahead and purchase that now. There is a maintenance agreement that comes along with that, and that would also be able to be taken from the law library fund now and into the future. And that concludes the budget amendments.
Okay. All right. I don't know if there's any questions on any of these budget amendments, but it would be, if you approve, it would be items F1A through F1Q?
P.
P through F1P. All right, are there any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court? I'll make a motion, we approve them. Is there a second? Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. I want to make 2 comments. One, just looking, one of the JPs is asking for additional filing cabinets and those things. One thing, just to remind everyone that they can get archives to come in and do an assessment of their storage needs. And a lot of times, instead of buying more files and those things and taking up more space in the operate in your area that you're trying to run an office, those could be transferred to the archives. And then a lot of times there's stuff kept in these offices that have already exceeded the retention date that can be destroyed. So I'd say look at that. The other thing, thanks for making purchases out of this year's budget that were budgeted for next year, so you can back that out of the 21 budget before we make the final approval. That would give us a little running room for next year, being the fact it's unknown what next year is going to look like. So just a couple of comments. All right. Going to item F1Q, Information Technology and IT Fund, Human Resources.
So I don't have any information on that. I don't know if Lisa, there she is.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, this information came in a little late. There were some numbers and things I needed to review and get information back from various people. So well, let me just go ahead and start with these 3 items. So I have 3 requests here to utilize funds from our FY20 IT Assessments Fund. In our first one, F1Q1, this is in regards to the HR technology purchases. This year, we purchased all the items that were assessed there, with the exception of the video conferencing solution for the large meeting room in the HR office. However, we also encountered some issues with the presentation solution that we had purchased for their training room. The ClickShare model that we had purchased, we discovered was not compatible with the 4K technology of the 85-inch TVs that had been purchased, which resulted in a picture display that caused borders to appear to the right and left edges of the screen, so they could not utilize the full presentation area. Also, the multi-form factor computer and the Dell 2-in-1 laptop to be utilized there also had difficulty with their resources and graphics capability to support those two 85-inch TVs and the workloads they intend to have in that space. So because this was not a satisfactory solution, I am asking the court if you would approve reassignment of these devices as I have requested below in my memo. I will read those to you as well. I want you to know the approximate cost spent on these items was $3,136. My suggestion is that we can utilize these devices in 3 other areas. So for the ClickShare item, we have JP5. They are wanting to upgrade their courtroom technology there and have also requested a ClickShare. So I would like to transfer that asset to that department, which will actually allow us to reduce the budget amendment that we just asked for. We just won't purchase that if the court agrees. We utilize the same technology in the JP4 courtroom, and it has worked very well there. For the Dell 2-in-1 laptop, the IT department could absorb this. This is a device that we could use with our desktop technicians. Oftentimes they need to go out in the field and have a device with them to communicate back to the network for various troubleshooting and needs, also during assessments and various other functions. For the multi-form factor, we could either reassign that to another department where they are in need of a compact computer, or we may have another project coming up that we could utilize that. So if the court agrees to that, we would of course still need to find solutions for the HR department in their training and meeting room spaces. So also in her environment, I would say, our environments have changed. We have new demands for the virtual meetings through the COVID process. So where they had originally requested video conferencing in one space, we now see that it would be very beneficial to have that in both locations. So I would like to also say, at one time back in January, we did bring in a vendor to offer us additional options for the various solutions that could be used in these spaces. At that time, we did not pursue it because we felt, we wanted to try to save funds and utilize products that we had been successful with in other areas. But with the trouble that we've run into, and after speaking with the HR director, we both feel it may be best to revisit having a consultant come on site and, look at these spaces, be able to incorporate the technology that has been put in there so far. And, hopefully they'll be able to recommend vetted products rather than us, being dependent on, doing research and relying on the specs that we're, researching from. So with all that said, I'm sorry, that was quite a mouthful. I'm asking that we reserve the funds from their original allocation that have been unspent. And I would also like to recoup for them the money that was spent on the devices that we're going to reassign. And that would give them a total of $16,044 to utilize towards that space.
Okay. Any questions?
Go ahead, sir.
I thought you were through. I'm sorry. Any questions anyone would have? What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under F1Qs regarding IT assessment fund for maintenance of equipment. This is for two 24-inch monitors and two 27-inch monitors and one monitor stand. Approximate cost of $708. They do not have the funds in their budget. Maintenance equipment does not, and requiring the purchase from the IT assessment surplus. Any questions anyone have on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell, Commissioner Snell,
Commissioner Snell, did you vote? Can't hear you.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Thank you.
You hear me?
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass.
Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt. I do, before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to ask this, on F1Q1, in the event we are not able to purchase and receive the equipment, the solutions for this space, I did need to note that this was not included in the FY21 budget. So where we are offsetting the budget now with a lot of the pre-orders, I think we will have room to still bring that number in, and potentially there could be, some items that we have to add back. So I just kind of wanted to point that out in advance. We do have some vendors lined up to come into that space soon, so we should have more an indication of that number pretty soon. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. There, F1R's authorization of invoices. This is from the Sheriff's Department, the Angelina County Airport. This is fuel, totaling $538.75 for Angelina County Airport for refueling of the Sheriff's Office helicopter.
And this is a reserve deputy that we're reimbursing. So since he's not an actual employee, we're asking for your approval to reimburse him for his personal expenses for fuel.
Okay. Any questions? If there's not any questions, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under F2, regarding the FY21 budget, Francis?
So, we filed the proposed budget last week. So we'll make the adjustments based on those budget amendments earlier, where some offices are able to purchase things that were already in there this year. So other than that, if there's any other changes that y'all would like to discuss or bring forward.
Any other questions?
Francis, I have a quick question about the, and it was in the newspaper this morning. They quoted us, and I've looked, I know those, they quoted our tax base being at 19 million on all of our
Billion.
tax rate scenarios. We have 18.2.
Mhm.
And I know those sheets are all, I mean, they're extremely complicated.
Yes.
They obviously didn't call and ask, so.
No, and so that number, I didn't see the article, but that number you're talking about, the 19.1 billion, that comes straight off those certified total reports that the appraisal district puts together. But you have to back off. You have to make some adjustments for TIF zones. There's a couple things that come into play there where you actually come down to your taxable appraised values. And then that's where we come to that 18.2 billion. So just some part of that's not taxable.
Okay. Under F2B, Information Technology Discussion. This is IT is requesting to pre-order Microsoft Office upgrades for 40 devices at a cost of $14,500. This will allow IT staff to deploy all as time allows. So they may focus on the other hardware installs where warranties are involved. Any questions about that?
Motion to approve F2B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other comments? If not, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller. Aye. Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under G, under bids, RFPs, RFQs, not anything this week. Under H is contracts, interlocal agreements, memorandums of understanding. H1 is authorization agreement of related estimates with Amazon Web Services Incorporated for cloud backup storage for IT. This item was deferred by the court on July 21st. So is there?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. I couldn't get my controls back up. Yes, I need to defer that again. We did receive some paperwork that we had requested, but it came in late yesterday and I have not had time to review it.
Okay, is there a motion to defer?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Passed. Regarding the janitorial contract under H2 with Simple Solutions, authorization to request to terminate the contract. Ken Bass.
Yes, sir. And actually, H2 and H3 more or less go together.
Tell us about it.
We received a request from that Nancy Bates Simple Solutions in their contract. We had them for our janitorial service for juvenile and adult. And we've had a long, good relationship with Simple Solutions, but due to COVID issues and staff shortages, they feel a need to end the contract August 31, 2020. And we respectfully submit this request for your consideration. But in continuing forward, just to make sure that you understand it's covered, H3, we have a request to enter into a contract with Facilities Maintenance Corporation. We have been searching to find a janitorial company to take over the contract we're ending with Simple Solutions. And we currently are paying Simple Solutions $1,963.48 per month to clean adult probation department and $1,019 a month to clean the juvenile facility. Both facilities are cleaned 5 nights a week, and we found Facilities Maintenance Corporation to be the best option for these services. And they agreed to hold the rates that we are currently paying. We would like to request we enter into a contract with Facilities Maintenance Corporation beginning September 1, 2020 with the rates noted for adult probation in the juvenile facility. And again, we respectfully submit the request for your consideration.
Okay, are there any questions? What's the pleasure on H2 and H3?
Motion to approve both requests on H2 and H3.
Is there a second? Motion made and second, any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Okay, pass. Under H4 is authorization agreement related to proposal with Johnson Controls on the air-cooled chiller replacement for the updates for the archives building. TJ?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So we've been talking about this project now for a couple of years. We're kind of on our last leg over there as far as the chiller is concerned. We put a lot of time and effort and money into it the past two years just to keep it up and going. So what this project does, it really knocks out two things for us. It upgrades our current chiller, and it also takes us to electronic controls, which will allow us to control the humidity levels inside the facility, which is really what we've been after the past couple of years to get us to that next level within the building. So you'll see there's total cost for the installation and the controls upgrade. I think the most effective thing to look at is the cost savings whenever it comes to electricity. So we're going to save somewhere in the area of about $22,000 a year in electricity costs just by upgrading the chiller itself. So virtually the chiller will pay for itself in the next 6 to 7 years. So it's a pretty wise investment. So we wanted to come to court and see if we could get approval to continue forward.
Okay, as you mentioned, we have been talking about it for a couple of years. So Francis, how do we pay for this? What fund does it come out of?
So this is definitely something that you could fit into your existing bonds, your general obligation bonds.
Okay.
There is, we're sitting on a little over 2.5 million. And so this definitely could fit in there.
Okay. All right. Any questions anyone would have? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second.
The motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under H5 regarding the maintenance agreement with Ryco US Incorporated Engineering and Office Copier. Under H5A, authorization of revised maintenance agreement. Ken?
Yes, sir. Engineer's office has an MPC 3504 copier, and they come to us and they would like to decrease the allowed black and white copies and increase the allowed colored copies to avoid costly overages. The change would be billed at $94.80 quarterly, and we have the order for the changes attached. Black and white is billed at 0.0078, and color overages are billed at 0.058.
Okay.
Black and white allowance is 1,000 copies, and the color is 1,500 copies.
All right. Any questions? Not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under H5B, authorization order agreement related to maintenance agreement on copier. This went with a budget amendment under the FY20 budget. Looks like this is, or go ahead, Ken.
Yes, sir. This is for purchase of a new copier, an IMC 3500 for the engineer's office. Cost of the copier would be $6,595, and then they will pay a quarterly maintenance for $110. On this copier, they're have an allowance for 3,000 copies at points, and their overage would be billed at 0.0078. And then on color, they have an allowance for 1,500 copies, and then their overage would be paid at 0.058.
Okay. All right, what's the pleasure of the court? I'll make a motion we approve. Or a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under H6, authorization agreement related to documents with CTWP for a copier for the law library. This is a coin-operated copier for attorneys that are in the courthouse pulling up law or cases and being able to print it off. The amount of this is $7,994.28. There's a service agreement for the copier totaling $180 annually. And the term of the agreement is 5 years and includes parts, service, labor, and black toner. Any questions? If not, I'll make a motion. We approve H6. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Philson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under H7, authorization of Fuelman Fleet Card client agreement with Fleet Core Technologies and Operating Company, LLC. It's for fuel cards. Dustin, do you want to, or David want?
Yes, sir. Good morning. The sheriff's office is actually still researching fuel cards, so we request that this be deferred at this time.
Okay, is there a motion to defer?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Philson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under H8, ratification of amendment and related statement of work quote with Civic Plus on media implementation. Lisa?
Yes, sir. I believe the court voted or approved our proceeding with our move to CP Media for the video recording and streaming. This is the statement of work. It required a signature for us to get started. So we got that earlier this week. And so I believe this was to ratify that amendment for that statement of work.
Okay, any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Bars and breweries are starting to push back against COVID-19.
Aye.
7 of them are teaming up, saying they're fed up with being shut down. News 10's Mr. Shaw has more on their frustration.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye. That wasn't me.
Judge Philson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass.
Thank you.
Ready? Okay, under items A is capital improvements, repairs, maintenance projects, and construction projects. I tell you what, let's, well, we'll go ahead with that. Under I1 is regarding the ADA renovations Expo Event Center bid number 20-013 agreement with John W. Irving construction authorization application for payment number 2. Ken?
Yes, sir. This is our pay application number 2 in the amount of $49,170. It's been reviewed by CPNY and signed off. And I believe both Dustin and I looked at it, and we're good.
All right. Any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Philson,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under I2, regarding Speedwell Road Improvement Project bid number 20-004, agreement with Knife River Corporation South. Under I2A, authorization application for payment number 4. Morning, Zane.
Morning, Judge. Item number I2A is for payment number 4, and I2B is for payment application number 5, both to Knife River for the Speegleville Road construction project. The applications have been reviewed and have been found with approval and are recommended for approval.
All right. Any questions anyone have?
Motion
Yeah,
to,
a quick question.
Okay.
wait,
Sorry. How much longer is it going to be closed?
Well, the asphalt, the first course of asphalt has been placed on part of the roadway. So that part will be open by the time school starts. But the entire project is about a year and a half in length.
Okay, any other
So
questions? No other questions? We have a motion second.
make a motion to approve I2A and I2B.
Okay,
Second.
motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under I3 regarding the Surrey Ridge Improvement Project bid number 18-021 with Knife River. Zane?
Yes, sir. This is the final application, request for release of retainage for Surrey Ridge Road. The project has been built and the application has been reviewed and is recommended for approval.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, Shane, did we get everything, Zane, did we get everything taken care of? We had some problems on the ditch in front of Wolf's house and trees. Did Justin get with you on that?
He did, and he has taken care of the issue.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner,
Aye.
Pass. Under I4 regarding the Cowboy Site 10 structural repair project agreement with Beavers Contracting LLC, authorization of change order modification number 2. Zane?
Yes, sir. On this item, while the contractor was reconstructing the dam, it was found that the riser and trash rack was in need of repair. And so we're requesting approval to do a change order to the contract in the amount of $9,250 to repair the trash rack and riser.
Okay. Any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. Under J is real estate and right of ways. We have nothing this week. On K's grants and grant proposals, we have nothing this week. Under L is Department Office and specific requests. Under L1 is Road and Bridge Precinct 3 authorization of cell phone allowance request. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller, Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under L2 is Health Services authorization of payment requests related to COVID-19 pauper burials, cremations. We call on Heather Travers.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is a fee that's being passed on from Waco Mortuary to Lake Shore for an additional $100 on any COVID positive decedent that they handle, just for protective gear and hazard risk. And Brent's asked if he could pass that fee on to us.
Okay, any questions? So how does he prove up? I guess there's death certificate would show if it's COVID-19. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to have enough in our budget to cover
Francis, I don't know if you can see that right now, but generally from what I've been able to look at historically, there's generally not ever enough budgeted for poppers. It looks like when I've looked back historically, we've always had to do a budget amendment. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. But Francis, do you happen to have that in front of you?
I do. Sorry. It looks like just based on our history right now of this year, and we have about 2 months left. We should be right there.
Okay.
It should, if we need a budget amendment, it should be very small, unless we have just just something that's not consistent. Unless we have a month coming up that's not consistent with other months during the year. But it looks like we should be right there. So I think this budget would be sufficient to cover that additional cost, but of course, a small budget amendment may be needed.
And if I may just add, already based on similar, we had an upcharge for transportation bodies for autopsy that we've already faced and approved, and it's the same company. So
yes, and we budget for those in a different line, and that we should be good there too. But for the pauper burials,
Okay.
And we could capture this also, correct, Francis, as COVID-related expenses? So if there's any reimbursement or any.
yes, we can review that, and then yes, definitely include that as well.
Okay, and I wanted to mention that I'm also working on an audit of our pauper burials at this time. I'm about 3/4 of a way through, where we're just going through and taking a look at any paupers that we've processed through the county that there might have been reimbursement through a trust fund or a checking account or something like that. So once we get that done and completed and get with Lakeshore, there might be some reimbursement money there as well, which might offset some of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, under L2, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion been made, second, any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smil,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under M2, selection of designated public members of the Salary Grievance Committee. The deadline was yesterday, and we did not get any notice of grievance. So I don't know what we need to do on this, Mercedes.
We just need to approve the members who have agreed to serve in the event that we needed to meet, but
Okay. All right, and then we should notify them that they're not going to be needed. So have my office follow up on that. Okay, is there a motion to approve M2?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for vote.
Commissioner Smil,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under M3, discussion or action regarding the McLennan County Facility Master Plan or office relocation. TJ and Zane and Ken. And Ken, be sure your microphone's close. I've been getting notices that they can't hear you.
you can turn this up.
Or speak louder, yeah.
Yes, sir. I was visiting with TJ yesterday. What we wanted to bring up before the court is that we do have open bids for the demolition and asbestos abatement in the downtown jail in Pine. And we're almost through with our evaluation for that. We'll have it clear for the court next week.
Okay.
But in visiting with TJ, there's a couple other numbers that we wanted to put forward before the court that's not actually part of this bid that we want to incorporate in the total amount that we'll need for that. And one is to put in some construction lighting after we've demoed the buildings, just so that there's lighting in the building so it's not completely black. And then we want to saw cut a entryway between the downtown jail and the High Five building. They're joined by a wall, but there's access down on lower floors, but we'd like to have a direct access from High Five over to the jail to remove the debris so it doesn't have to come out through the annex building.
If I could make a suggestion, being that we're going to meet next Tuesday anyway, that might be a good time to for you all to make a full report, plenty of time for discussion, so
Okay.
you're not rushed by the commissioners. But if you have anything we need to take any action on today, we can do that as well.
We didn't bring anything to take any action, but if you would like us to be here on the 11th, that's not a problem, I don't think.
Okay.
TJ, I see you're there now. Are you good with that? We can get
Sure.
those numbers.
Yeah, the 11th should be plenty of time.
Okay, it's a good time to continue talking about long-range plan and those things also that's in the works. So, and priorities and those kind of the space group to talk about that. Okay,
Very good.
thank you. Under M4 authorization regarding Texas Department of Motor Vehicles and local operational fees as per Chapter 502 of the Texas Transportation Code. Who's speaking to that?
Judge, I can cover it.
Nope.
These are the local optional fees that counties are allowed to charge under the Texas Transportation Code. The first one is the county road and bridge fee. We're currently set at the maximum of $10, and fees collected from that must be credited to the county road and bridge fund. The second one under M4B is the child safety fee. This is the one we approved back in 2013. We're set at a maximum of $1.50, and we're at the maximum of both of these. So we can either make no changes or decrease those fees. We're not allowed to increase them.
Okay. All right. Is any questions on those? I'll make a motion that we keep the fees the same. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Passed. And if y'all will bear with me another 5 or so minutes, we'll take a break, but I want to go to try to finish up this agenda under M5, Pender County Spaceport Development Corporation, authorization of the board of directors, officers, and terms of offices. The following are board members: Rick Brophy, Tate Christian, Jim Herring, Carlos Hyde, Tom Kirk, Terry Stevens, John Sawyer. And then the officers are President Terry Stevens, Vice President Tate Christian, Secretary and Treasurer Tom Kirk. And then in your notes, you've got the terms of office, but those appointed June 20th, from June 2020 to 21 are Rick Brophy, Tate Christian, Jim Herring, and Mr. Hyde. And then appointed for 2020 to 2022 is Tom Kirk, Terry Stevens, and John Sawyers. Any questions about that? If not, is there a motion to approve that board?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made, second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for vote.
Commissioner Snell, Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Bolton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under M6, Texas Association of Counties Risk Management Tool, authorization of liability coverage renewal and related invoices on public officials liability, law enforcement liability, general liability, auto liability, and auto physical damage. TAC has submitted their liability coverage renewal documents for 2020 and related invoices totaling $551,924, and last year it was $514,573. So 35,000 or so more. The renewal is for the following coverages, and it's got those in there, those limitations. And Dustin, do you have anything else on that you or Ken or?
Yes, sir. We actually did check with TAC on that increase. Most of it was driven on the law enforcement liability coverage. And the reason for that was just based on the sheer number of officers we added for the Jack Harwell facility. That's what the per officer rate actually dropped, but with our increase in the number of officers, that's what drove that increase.
So we had the increase in jailers due to taking over the Jack Harwell facility. So that's what drove it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions about that? What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller. Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under M7 is authorization order accepting monetary donation for drug and alcohol court program. The amount, this is an amount of $1,000 to be used specifically for the purchase of small incentives or programs, participants in the programs related to expenditures for drug and alcohol court program. There are little recognitions, small recognitions of success levels as these people go through drug and alcohol, the program that Judge Devin Igam runs. And so they do get donations from time to time for people who are supportive of it. It's a good program, and it really helps us curb the number of these repeat offenders. I think there's adequate evidence showing that it is a successful program. Of course, this cost us nothing. This is $1,000 from outside for this program. Is there a
Motion to
motion?
approve.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller. Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Perry.
Pass. Under M8, authorization of refund request for overpayment of real estate taxes for Cypress Creek Renewables. They overpaid by almost $5,000, $4,984.30. And so this is just authorizing a refund back to them. Any questions about that? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Okay, under M9, I don't know, I haven't heard from Mark McCliney yet. He was waiting to get the rates of those, of the bond sales, so we'll.
He's not quite ready.
Okay, we'll hold that. Going to M10's authorization and governmental transfer of funds derived from the county health care provider participation fund, mandatory payments to provide the non-federal share of a supplemental payment program authorized under the Texas Healthcare Transformation and Quality Improvement Program, otherwise known as the 1115 waiver. Heather?
Yes, sir. This is requesting the IGT up to the amount in the LPPF of $2,876,595.04. And this is for the Uniform Hospital Rate Increase Program, Program Year 4, and this is Advanced Part 2 payment.
Okay.
Give me that amount again, Heather.
$2,876,595.04.
Any questions? What's the pleasure, of the court?
Move to approve.
Got a second? Motion made, second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller. Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Passed. Under items N, Americans with Disabilities Act compliance, we have nothing this week. Under O, McLennan County Venue Project and authorization for phase 1, 2, and phase 3, including but not limited to. Under O1s regarding the architectural services, we have nothing this week. Under O2, that was under O1. Under O2 is regarding the construction manager at risk agreement with John W. Irwin General Contractor authorization application for certificate for payment agreement addendums, design documents, acceptance of reports, updates, and related matters. Under O2A, authorization application of certificate for payment number 18. This application is total $1,608,628. Ken, any comments on that?
Yes, sir. We reviewed it. Dustin's reviewed it, and Populous has signed off on it. So this should be good to go.
Okay. Any questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under O3 regarding professional service agreement related to construction materials testing proposal from Langerman Foster Engineering. Under O3A, authorization of invoice number 11979. This is for $2,503. This is work done on the venue project. Any questions anyone have? If not, is there a motion to approve the invoice from Langerman Foster Engineering?
So
Motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Second. And any other discussion? No other discussion, call for vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Under P's, McLennan County Radio Tower Project, the expansion to existing simulcast communication system. P1s regarding the system purchase agreement with Motorola Solutions. So, Ken?
Yes, sir. This statement is a certificate of milestone acceptance. And this milestone is the project kickoff, design review, and initial site surveys are complete. We had a meeting this past week over 2 days over the design that's going from Heart of Texas Tower to Road and Bridge 1, and from Road and Bridge 1 to Road and Bridge 2. And Motorola just wants it signed off that this has taken place.
Okay.
And I think Dustin was somewhat involved, John Strunk, myself, and various city of Waco, and a lot of people were in on the meetings.
Yeah. Okay. What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Pass. Okay, under A, and this is for the supplemental agenda. Let's take a 10-minute recess, and then we'll come back. Kind of what's on the agenda going forward is Mark McCliney come back in, and then economic development report from Chris Collins. And I think we've got a couple of items to go into executive session on as well. So just 10-minute break, recess.
Okay, Judge, ready whenever you are.
Okay. Okay, video is not coming on. It says you can start your video, and I put.
Oh.
What is that document? Okay. Let's call court back into session. All right, looks like Mark McCliney's on. So, Mark, can you hear us?
Oh, can you hear me, Judge?
I can. Good morning. Let's go to item M9. Have Mark McCliney here. So, Mark, get us started here.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. I'm not exactly sure why my Zoom's not working. I can see you, but I can't hear you off the Zoom, so I'm using my phone in addition to the Zoom. We had a very busy morning and a very successful morning. We went out to bid on the $14,545,000 general obligation bonds for the zoo. When we were starting this process, we were running numbers even in an aggressive market at 2 3/4. Well, today we did way better than that. We ended up with 9 bids. The best bid, and I tried to share my screen. I hope you all can see it. The best bid is Robert W. Baird and Company. Their bid was 1.47%. This is compared to what we ran the numbers and started the process with the voters at 2.75%. The total difference in interest is in excess of $2 million. It's $2,096,000 over the 20-year loan.
Well, that's great.
Judge, you've been in the lending business a long time, and on a fixed rate loan of 1.47, it's a bit unheard of.
Right.
A lot of this is COVID, but these are terrific rates, the lowest the county has ever borrowed. We got a great bond rating. The fact we have 9 bidders wanting McLennan County bonds really says it all. They really competed hard against one another. And you can see from really the first 5 or 6 bids, they're all close, within 9 or 10 basis points of one another. All in all, what I'd like to do is recommend awarding to R.W. Baird. We'll continue finishing up some paperwork, but we will put $14,545,000 into your construction fund. So there'll be no voted and unissued bonds. That will be after all costs associated with it. So that interest rate of roughly 147 includes paying the underwriter to distribute the bond as well as all the costs of issuance. So, really feel really good about this. Sorry that we're in a COVID situation. I can't be there with you all, but results speak for themselves. I've worked with Francis. The bond payment the first year matches very well to your INS fund, your INS tax rate that you're setting. We had a bit more in the INS reserves that we wanted to pull down just a little bit. It can only be used for debt service, but we completely met all our goals on what we shared with the voters of maintaining, being able to sell this without affecting the INS tax rate. Judge, I'll turn it back over to you, but I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Well, thank you. That is a very nice rate. You talk about in my banking, if I'd seen a rate that low, our origination fees were higher than that. So this is a great rate with all fees included within the total corpus of the debt. You mentioned bond rating. What did our bond rating turn out?
We're AA1, Judge, which is the second highest. And if you look through the report, which I'll make sure that you all have it, very, very favorable. We're a low debt county. Lots of, they rank them a lot of their different categories, and many of our categories are in the AAA rating. We're pulled down just a little bit by wealth per capita. And that they actually acknowledge part of that pull down is due to populations with the Baylor University, students without any money. But very, very favorable report, the second highest rating that we could have.
That's great. All right. Are there any questions for Mark? All right. So is there a motion to approve this transaction?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Commissioner Miller, did you get a vote from her?
oh. Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Aye, pass.
Judge, I'll be working on a few things and we'll send it to you for some signatures. Only one will I need back later today.
Okay.
And
Well,
I'll coordinate with that with your office, with Reagan, in
Yeah.
your office to
Yeah,
make
Cody.
sure you get that.
Yeah, Cody and Dustin, work with them. Reagan's on vacation.
Oh, okay. I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to sign off. Thank you.
All right, good job, Mark. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to go to under supplemental under I believe it's B1A and B12. I'll call on Chris Collins. Chris,
Yes, sir. Good morning.
good morning.
On the supplemental agenda, item B1A for Laminate Technologies of Texas. This is a project that we've been working on for several months now. You have before you a program project agreement. Just to give you a little background about the company, Laminate Technologies was founded in 1985. They are headquartered in Ohio and have laminating operations in Tennessee, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, Oregon, and Washington. They do a number of different laminated products for the commercial construction industry, from countertops to cabinets. They do it all. And they're looking at relocating an existing Texas facility that they feel that long-term they won't be able to have the long-term viability in that community. They've been looking outside of Texas as well from a relocation perspective, but have zoned in on Waco for their new facility. What the project overall looks like is a total of $4 million in capital investment. $1 million of that is in real property improvements to a facility they've identified at 1001 South Loop 340 on the frontage of Highway 6. In addition to that, they would have $3 million of personal property improvements in the form of equipment. A combination of that would be relocation of existing equipment from their existing Texas facility into Waco, and additional equipment, new equipment that they would purchase in growing their operations in this facility. From a job creation perspective, we're looking at 40 jobs that will be created by the end of 2021. About half of those will come this year, and the balance of those would come next year. The overall average wage for the company is $35,000 a year. Their machine operators and production people are in the $13 to $18 an hour range, and then their supervisors and managerial positions are $43,000 to $62,000 a year. They'll have 27 machine operators at full capacity, and then the balance of those other employees will be through those material handlers, supervisory positions, administration, and sales positions as well. They do provide health insurance benefits. They also provide gain sharing, efficiency bonus plans, and then they do a 401k plan as well. So they have a number of additional benefits that they provide to their employees beyond just a traditional wage. And they do meet the requirements of the Economic Development Corporation guidelines as they are current in their current state. What has been proposed to them, what their request has been to the Economic Development Corporation is a grant of $340,000 that would be payable based on performance. So once the investment is in place and they've created the jobs, they'll be able to draw down against the agreement. With that, the term of the agreement would run through December 31st, 2026.
Okay, are there any questions for Chris on that project? All right, what's the pleasure of the court?
Make a motion to approve B1A.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Snell,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Felton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Going to items B1B on Rynet Corporation. Chris?
Yes, sir. This is another program project agreement for your consideration today. Ryonet Corporation is a national distributor of commercial screen printing supplies and equipment. They're headquartered in Vancouver, Washington, and have been in business since 2004. They're a very entrepreneurial company. The company founder actually started the business in his parents' garage, making these e-commerce kits, growing the business from $100,000 a year to well over $50 million a year in a relatively short period of time from a startup organization. They now are growing and have lots of opportunities for new business lines, and see Waco as an opportunity for centralized business to meet the needs of their customers. The majority of their business is on the West Coast. However, Texas is a very close second. So you think about multiple states on the West Coast versus one single state accounting for almost the same amount of business. So they really feel like Waco as an opportunity for future growth, not just from a distribution perspective, but moving forward into other realms. They have identified a Waco facility for an existing facility for expanding their distribution presence. Originally, they were looking at just adding Waco in support of the central United States and complementing the business that they had in Kansas City and in Atlanta. However, after looking at their models, they decided to consolidate both the Kansas and the Atlanta operations all into the Waco facility, providing long-term strategy for growth for their business. Overall, they're looking at $1.2 million worth of investment. $98,000 of that is in machinery and equipment into the community. $33,000 of that is in building improvements that the building owner would make into the property. And then they have $110,000 in relocation expenses, along with they will have a sizable inventory that they will keep on hand, about $1 million a year. What they've asked for, because they are an entrepreneurial company and they have had some impacts as an organization with COVID, they've asked for the corporation to consider a forgivable loan for them to offset the relocation expenses associated with consolidating both of the other two operations into the Waco market. With this, they will bring in, they have one existing employee in the marketplace, and he's actually the one that really pushed Waco as the ideal location for their operations. And I hope that you'll have a chance to meet him in the future. He has a great story to tell where he and his wife could have been anywhere, and they just started driving around and they fell in love with this community. And his love and passion for Waco is what has helped him make the case for why this community has been will be the ideal location for their continued business growth. And Judge has had a chance to visit with him as well.
Yeah, he's a poster child for promoting Waco. I was very impressed with his how he was able to look at this community differently than all of us that live here. But you know, one of the things that he really liked about it, there's lots of things, but also that there were a lot of young people wanting to stay here in Waco and create businesses, and some of the programs that actually we've supported with young entrepreneurs and startup businesses and those things. That's the kind of atmosphere he wanted to be in, and it was very impressive. One thing about this company and the other one as well is these are smaller companies, and you know, it's okay to get the giants in here, but it's also good to have a lot of diversification in size. And we hope all of them succeed, but if a big one fails, it really hurts us, where a lot of these small ones are operating. There might be one or two that maybe not successful, but the rest of them carry on and grow into the bigger companies. So, you know, this company could have gone they had a lot of different options to go other places. So this incentive is to for them to be here. So anything else, Chris?
So overall, what the request is for the commissioner's consideration today is a grant in $110,000 that would be considered a forgivable loan over 7 years. And they will have to maintain at least the 10 new employees that they bring on for the duration. And one of the other things I just want to point out is, as we've worked with them, we hear the commissioners and then the Waco City Council and their desire to increase the wages for the citizens of the community. And by working with them in partnership, they were able to increase their base minimum wage from $12 an hour to $13.50 an hour as part of this agreement. And we've seen over time with other employers that the base wage that they start out with is not the wage that they end up with at the end of their agreement. Those wages will grow over time, and that further helps support the economic vitality of the citizens of this region.
Okay, any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve this program project agreement for Ryonet Corporation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any other discussion? No discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smale,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Dalton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. And I think, Chris, you need to go into executive session.
Yes, sir.
All right. If I could, let me deal with one item, and I think that's all, and get it taken care of, and then we'll come right back and we'll go like into a 2-minute recess so we get prepared for executive session. All right, I'd like to go to under item Under the other supplemental agreement, under B, Human Resource and Salary Matters, under B1 is County Sheriff. Amanda?
Yes, sir, I'm still on the line. Sorry, I'm choking. I just swallowed wrong. So with regard to this particular agenda item, we received a status form request to do a lateral transfer of an employee from one position to another within the jail. We need to keep record of this for accounting purposes affiliated with the budget codes. This particular position had an individual in it previously who had some accrued time on the books that we were not able to view at the initial stage of receiving this status form. And the employee has officially started in that particular position, but they already had time on the books that had not yet exhausted. So this is a notification to the court of a policy violation. It's also a request for approval to allow this position to be filled before that accrued time is exhausted. The sheriff's office does have enough sufficient funds to cover that overlap, so it would be budget neutral.
Okay. All right, any questions? What's the pleasure of the court?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Judge Dalton,
Aye.
Commissioner Jones,
Aye.
Commissioner Perry.
Aye.
Pass. Just on the work session, nothing particular on it to bring up. The only thing is I did mention earlier under Q3 is discussion regarding county property. One of the things in there has to do with file storage and those things, and I would like to ask IT over the next 6 months or so, try to schedule meetings with offices to see if they need any help with any of their storage to try to reduce paper storage, try to reduce the amount they have to keep in their offices, and also take notice of the retention that we're fall within the retention agreements or retention guidelines that we have on documents and help out clear up some of the office space. Okay, if we could, I want to go into a 2-minute recess, and then when I come back, we will go into executive session under items 551.071 under legal advice, as well as 551.087 for economic development discussion. Thank you. go back into session. At this time, I'd like to go in executive session under 551.074, 551.071, and 551.087. And I'd like, on the first part of it, under 551.087, I'd like for, besides the Commissioners Court, have Dustin and Chris Collins. Okay, we'll go into executive session now. Okay. Mercedes, we ready to go into regular session? All right, we're going back into regular session. I'd like to go back to item M11 regarding the November 3rd, 2020 joint general election.
Yes, apparently the Waco City Council is asking for the addition of an early voting location in South Waco Community Center. And I was asking what would it cost to add that location? That would be not the norm for our usual early voting setup, but I think more importantly, all these cities and school districts that have already ordered their elections are likely going to have to go back and issue an amendment to add any new early voting. So that's a pain to them.
Could you repeat that real quick, Mike?
Okay. The Waco, through their city secretary, is asking to add an early voting location in South Waco, the South Waco Community Center. And is asking about what the cost would be to Waco add that location. I'm saying that that's different than how we've allocated across the early voting in the past.
Right.
And more importantly to me is you have other entities that have already voted to hold their election that are going to have to go back and amend their order to add another early voting site.
And Mike, can I ask you a question right quick?
Yeah.
That being said, they'd have less than 2 weeks to do it as well, right? Because the amendment would have to be done before the 17th or by the 17th.
17th, yeah.
By the 17th, yes.
I don't think I would be in favor of that. I think that creates a lot of. What happens if somebody doesn't get it done by the 17th, Mike?
I don't know if the Secretary of State would necessarily blow up the election. It could create problems, but sometimes they'll look at the facts and say, hey, you just weren't given time to do this. But I'm also concerned about why another early voting center has to be added when we've obviously had elections, including city elections before, that didn't involve another early voting center.
Kathy, are you on?
Yes,
No.
I am. I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear the discussion?
I did not. Sorry. I didn't know we were going to discuss this.
Okay, Mike, you need to restate that again, your concerns.
Okay. Waco is asking to add at this date an early voting location in South Waco, the South Waco Community Center. And my concerns were, one, this is not standard to the way in the past we've allocated the early voting centers. And number two, that any entity that has already ordered their election may be put in the position of having to amend their order or do a new order to add the early voting center. Is there anything false about that, what I'm stating?
No, that's true, Mike. In May, when the cities and schools contract with the county, they're holding their election without the county having an election. So they get to decide what the early voting sites are going to be. And normally they try to use the county early voting sites, but they might not use all of them, or they might add a different one. And cities and schools can add a early voting site if they'll pay for it, because the people that are in the contract usually want to only pay for, 2 or 3, not 5 or 6 or 7. And in this case, there's 27 entities that are having an election with the county. So in November, because they're required to have and use county early voting sites and election day sites, we don't add any additional early voting sites, and therefore the county pays and for all of the early voting sites, since each entity can't add an additional early voting site because they're mandated to use the county early voting site. So normally in November, and City of Waco doesn't normally have their elections in November, they usually have them in May. So that's why they're familiar with adding an early voting site and paying that cost, because we do that in May, but not in November.
So legally they're required to use our early voting sites. It would take us adopting this as an early voting site we are creating ourselves.
Correct. And the reason we haven't done that in the past is by law, we're required, the size of the county that we have, to have one in each of our county commissioners' precincts. And to be fair, we've only had one rather than adding additional ones, because they don't, to not go to the expense of adding an additional site for each commissioner. And to be fair, that's why we kept it at one. But if if they wanted to at some point add additional early voting sites, then each commissioner really, to be fair, should be able to add an early voting site, so they have the same amount.
A question: has the City of Waco, when they've held their elections in May, have they ever had a site that we don't normally have during our election?
Sometimes they do, but normally, like I said, we meet in December to discuss it with all the entities that are having the election in May. And at that point, that's when they decide how many early voting and how many election day sites they want to use. And they start with the county early voting and election day sites. And they decide how many everybody's willing to pay for. And then after that, some of the cities and schools, for instance, Bellmead usually will want to use their city hall, so they'll pay for that. City of Waco normally will try to use the county early voting sites unless one's not available.
Okay, but they have in the past used sites that were different from ours, and they paid for them?
Right, and they can do that in May, but not in November. In November, they're mandated to use the county early voting and election day sites only.
Okay, is that even under the new order of the Secretary of State due to the fact that they postponed those elections?
Yes. They're required to contract with us, and they're required to use our sites by law.
Okay, because then why would they give them to August the 17th to make any changes to their early voting? And just for it being those people that postponed their May election, why would they give them that option if it's not an option?
Yeah, they give everybody, all the cities and schools that are contracting, and the county has that option of August 17th to call their election. And in any election, there's a time frame, so many days prior to the election when the election can be ordered.
Okay,
so it wasn't just the City of Waco or those that postponed them.
I'm trying to follow you from this morning, because you told me this morning that this deadline was for the city and that we had to do ours prior to that. And that's why we have in court on the 11th. But I do see calendar that the Secretary of State has that cities have to the 17th, and I don't think they would give them an option to change if they didn't have an option to change. I also don't understand why we wouldn't give them the courtesy of adding a site if it is they want to add a site, if they're going to pay the full cost of it. I don't understand what our prohibition would be.
Because in a November election, when the county is having an election, the city and schools that contract with the county only in November, not in, or any time that the cities and schools are having an election while the county is having an election, they're mandated to use the county polling places for both early voting and election day. They don't get to choose to use other election sites. But in May, when the county's not having an election, they can choose to use whatever sites they want. And we start with what we normally use so the voters aren't confused with every time we have an election, there's a different polling place. So that's why the city of Waco is wanting to add a site, because they're used to having a May election where they could add a site. But in November, they don't usually have their elections in November. So they don't get to add a site for a November election under normal circumstances, because the county would have to say this is their normal early voting site moving forward to be able to add that site.
But, and let me go back, and I understand what Commissioner is saying is, since these were moved from May, has the Secretary of State specifically addressed this issue, that, you know, whether since they're moved from May, that the May rules can apply, or has Secretary of State said, no, you have to do the same as the standard general elections and use the county sites?
Well, I think, you know, because they postponed these till May, you know, these cities and schools don't normally go by the November calendar. They're making them go by the November calendar, even though in the past they wouldn't have gone by the November calendar. But like they've already, you know, even though they ordered their election in May, they had to order it again because the early voting dates and times and locations have changed from what they were going to, and election day sites have changed from what they were going to use in May. So they've already, you know, had their filing deadline. They've already done their ballot drawing for a place on the ballot. So some of those don't change. Like they won't be able to open up their positions for other people to file. They won't have an additional ballot drawing, but they do have to follow some of the November rules, such as calling the election again, because their early voting dates, times, locations, and election day places have changed since what they were going to use in May 2nd. And on the calendar, you know, it says it's the 78th day before election day when you have to order the election. And the county has to order the election by that date too. That's the deadline for anybody that's having an election in November to order to order their election. That's why we can't wait till the 18th.
Right. And I don't think we're asking to do that. I think they're going to vote, and I guess that's why they sent that. I haven't seen what Mike's reading. I didn't know they were going to have a discussion. I knew this was on their agenda. I didn't know exactly what they were going to do. I guess my question, though, is if we offer them the courtesy of having sites, if they pay, I don't understand why we don't offer that same courtesy in November, especially given the special circumstances. Number one, they didn't want to contract with us in the first place. You know, they wanted to, well, maybe this is why.
Well, only because, well, I think there's several reasons they didn't want to contract with us. They probably didn't want to have their election in November to begin with. But the problem is with this is any contracting entities, any entity, any political subdivision that has an election with the county in November is required by law to use the county early voting and election day polling places, period. That's always how the law states that, and it always has.
I hear you talking. You mentioned that several times. That's my question to you. Why is it that we cannot afford them that courtesy and have this as an early voting site for them in November, especially with COVID. It's not a question to the city, it's a question to us. Why
Right.
can't we do this?
Well, you can, but then that would be a permanent early voting site added to the county's early voting site.
Be permanent? Since we
Well-
list and vote on early voting sites at every election in the order, why would making this in this election cycle make it a permanent site?
Because you're saying that the city has to use the county site, and you're saying that that's a county site, and it's not.
Well, it's not now. I mean, we haven't voted that it would be. But if we
Right.
voted that it was and it became, why is it that we cannot in the next voting cycle, if that's not a request, not have it when we do it in the order? We do an order every election.
Right, you do. And, you know, that's up to the commissioners. If they want to add it, they can. But, you know, again, the reason we haven't added more than one early voting site is because to be, you know, keep an even number for all the commissioners, because I know Commissioner Jones had once talked about adding Lacey Lakeview, and I don't know, you know, if the other commissioners want to add another early voting site. But that's the reason we only had the 4 early voting sites plus our main early voting site. So to just, I guess, to be fair and maintain consistency, to have each commissioner have 1 early voting site.
Nothing legally precludes us from doing that. It's just been a decision that we've just.
I think it was the cost of the early voting site is the reason, because it's going to cost about $20,000.
Okay, well, they say they're gonna pay the cost. So, saying, when it comes to increasing, I wanna make sure my question is clear. When it comes to increasing the number of early voting sites, there's nothing legally stops us from doing this. It's just a decision that we make based on cost.
That's normally what is, and the fact that, like I said, normally you want to maintain consistency so that each commissioner has the same amount of early voting places and one doesn't have more than the other. And usually, you know, that's what y'all have maintained, but, you know, certainly y'all can make that change. There's
Kathy,
also
there's nowhere in is there anywhere in the statute that says that we have to have that, where we have to have 1 for 1, 2, you know, two for all?
No.
1 for
No,
all?
There is in the statute that you have to have 1 in each site,
In each, right.
in each commissioner's jurisdiction.
It's just
So
the
we
way
couldn't
it's
just
always been
open
done.
up one. Right. And just maintain, and I have to tell you, for this reason, it's the cost, but it's also for this specific election, is the staffing. It's already, you know, it's already going to be tough to maintain the staff with the 5 early voting sites. If we add 5 more, it'll be really difficult. Or even if you add 1 more, it's going to be difficult to find staff that are willing to work for 3 weeks. Because even people, you know, that are willing to take a day off to work election day, they're not going to take 3 weeks off to work early voting.
Commissioner Perry, do you have something?
Well, and just, it's going to create more confusion because Mike's already pointed out that those who have already called their election are going to have to do amendments. And then
Right, they all have to change it.
Right, and so they'll have less than 2 weeks to do that, and then I can assure you, we're probably going to hear from other citizens that come in and go, well, if you're going to do that, I want one over here or out here. Probably the Hallsburg being wanting another early.
It's always been ours. It's always been
Conley,
ours.
Commissioner
Conley
Jones.
ISD wants one. They want their own. There are others that want one, but we've, you know, had to say we can't, you know, manage 27 early voting sites. And like I said, the timing is bad because all of those cities and schools that have called their election already, they only have usually maybe 1 meeting a month. So to get that word out and change again for them, you know, that they may not have another meeting until late August or September.
Have they, Connolly, were they willing to pay for their site?
No. None of the cities and schools want to pay for it.
The city of Waco is willing to pay for their site, correct?
They are.
Mike, the one with the.
I'm just saying, you
Yeah,
know,
pay for their site. I'm
The other thing, Commissioner Miller, is, we really, this is a big, huge election, and we really want the voters to feel like their sites are set. And so it'll be really hard if we get to November and some of the sites don't want to be used as a site because of COVID. So we really want to maintain consistency for the voters so that they're not confused of where do I go vote for this election. And by opening up a location just for this one election that we're never going to open again, then the voters are going to say, well, where do I go vote this time? Because it's, that's why we've tried to stay consistent and maintain our normal polling places that we've used for both early voting and election day. So the voters are used to going there, and every time they have an election, they don't say, well, this polling place is closed. And I know we can't help that, and sometimes we have to, but we really try the best we can not to have to do that so the voters aren't confused and aren't upset that their polling place that they're used to going to is not open. So
I agree. I know your task in front of you is difficult, but I also know during the primary that we had to close some sites and we had to open sites. And I think the voters, they dealt with that. I would think if sites start closing on us, if you have more sites open, that it would alleviate that as opposed to burden on that. And my concern is, I don't want to shoot it down. I think it sends a bad message to voters if we have the city of Waco, which is one of our largest partners in elections. If this is a request and they're saying, can we have a site and we'll pay for it? And they've changed from, we want to have our own election and we want to have our own machines and we want to have our own workers. I think they've worked with us really well in trying to make sure that McLennan County citizens aren't confused, that they aren't overwhelmed.
And Commissioner Miller, I agree with you, and I know there's a large population in the city of Waco, but to me, since we have 26 other entities that are not requesting that and that are not being allowed to do that, it just doesn't seem fair to the folks in all the other cities and schools that we don't listen to them, regardless of whether they're going to pay for it or not, and that they don't get to have what they want or might want, but the city of Waco does. So it just doesn't seem fair to me to disregard all the other cities and schools' wants and needs just because the city of Waco can afford it.
Let me make a suggestion.
Some of those cities and schools can't afford it.
I understand that, but it's different. If you can afford to pay for the site, it's different than you just want a site and you can't afford to pay for it. There's a big difference there.
Well, and some of those cities and schools would have to send somebody home if they had to pay that money.
Let me make a suggestion. We've deferred this, or we're going to talk about it on, and it'll be on the agenda for next Tuesday, and we can make the final vote then.
Okay.
And, if anybody wants to talk to the court about it prior to that or during court, we can do that as well.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? All right. We stand adjourned.
Thank you.